Okay, class, we're on to 5.5, write equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, so here's the important note, all right? If two non-vertical lines in the same plane have the same slope, then they are parallel. If two non-vertical lines in the same plane are parallel, then they have the same slope. So parallel lines have the same slope. I think we had touched on that earlier. So that's what we're going to be working with, parallel and perpendicular lines. So you know parallel lines are everywhere, right? Roads, railroad tracks, TVs, look around the room. Even the top of the ceiling and the floor are parallel lines. So they are everywhere. So they're very real world applicable. So we're going to write an equation of a parallel line. It says write an equation of the line that passes through -3, -5, and is parallel to the line y equals 3x minus 1. So I'm going to write that down. -3, -5. Okay, so it's going to go through this, and it is going to be parallel. This is a symbol in geometry for parallel to y equals 3x minus 1. Okay, so it has to be a parallel line to this. So you're not going to be able to graph everything, so you need to be able to take information and figure out. So what did we say, or what did they say about parallel lines at the beginning? Didn't they say that parallel lines are the same slope? So if this line has a slope of 3, then a parallel line to 3x minus 1 has to have the same slope. So I'm going to write down the slope. The slope has to be 3. And then it has to go through the point -3, -5. So it has to go through this ordered pair, have this slope, and then it will be a parallel line. That's what they're asking you to do. So here you have a couple choices. You can use point slope form and solve it for y. Or you can plug everything straight into y equals mx plus b. I'm one of those that I don't mind what you do as long as you show your work and show what formula you're using. So whichever you find easier. Here I'm going to just go ahead and plug it into point slope intercept form, not point slope form. We already know that the slope is 3. We know that x is -3 and y is -5. So here y is -5, the slope is 3, and x is -3, and then we are finding b. Because the two things in slope intercept form that you need are the slope and the y-intercept. You already have the slope, you know it's 3. What we have to do is plug in the other ordered pair to find b. So -5 equals 3 times -3 is -9 plus b. So I'm going to add 9. So b is 9 minus 5, which is 4. So now I have the two pieces. I know the slope is 3 and I know the y-intercept is 4. So I write back a correct equation, and that's it. So that's going to be a parallel slope to the y equals 3x minus 1. See how we have the same slope, but we have a different y-intercept. So that's completely correct. So those two would be parallel lines running right next to each other. The fact that they have the same slope makes them parallel, and the fact that they have the same slope keeps them the same distance apart for as long as they need to go. Okay, so that's an example of how you do parallel lines. Okay, I'm just going to throw this up real quick and we're going to read this. Okay, perpendicular lines. So those are the two things we're doing, because parallel and perpendicular lines are something you see all the time. A perpendicular line is two lines that intersect to form a 90-degree angle. In fact, the cross that Jesus was crucified on, that would be an example of perpendicular lines. Flags often have perpendicular lines. Again, you see perpendicular lines a lot in flags all over the place. You just don't. A T is a perpendicular line, okay? And the way that you can tell, so we're going to read here, if two non-vertical lines in the same plane have slopes and negative reciprocals, then the lines are perpendicular. If two non-vertical lines in the same plane are perpendicular, then their slopes are negative reciprocals. So here they're showing -3/2. So a negative reciprocal means the opposite sign. So see how you have a negative? The new one has a positive. They have different signs. And reciprocal, 3/2, the reciprocal is 2/3. You just flip it. So if I asked you what was the reciprocal of 5, you should know that 5 is really 5/1. So if 5 is positive, the reciprocal is going to be negative. Instead of being 5/1, we flip it. It becomes 1/5. We take the reciprocal. So 5 and -1/5 are reciprocals. Okay, so we're going to read this, and then I'm going to work this out. Determine whether lines are parallel or perpendicular. Okay, determine which lines, if any, are parallel or perpendicular. So we have the first one is solve for y. A is y equals 5x minus 3. B is in standard form, x plus 5y equals 2. And then C is -10y minus 2x equals 0. So remember, you can't judge anything until they're all in slope-intercept form. So the first one is, so we need to go ahead and write that down. Then we're going to solve the others, and we're going to look. So the first one was y equals 5x minus 3. That's fine. Then the next one's x plus 5y equals 2. Then the next one is -10x minus 2x equals 0. All right, so we want to be able to see which ones, if any, are parallel or perpendicular. So let's go ahead and solve this for y. We can't judge until we have it. So I'm going to say 5y equals, you should see that we're subtracting x, -x plus 2. Let me make this a bit bigger. Let me go up here so I have a bit more room. Okay, so I have to divide by 5. So I'm going to do the work here, and then I'm going to write everything neatly afterwards. Okay, so that's the second one when it's solved. Y equals -1/5 x plus 2/5. And then this one has to be solved. Actually, hold on, let me look. I think I wrote this wrong. Example 2, -10y. Sorry, this is supposed to be a y. So let me go ahead and erase that. -10y minus 2x equals 0. So let's go ahead and solve it for y. So I'm going to add 2x. So -10y equals 2x. Divide by -10. And y equals -1/5 x. Okay, so now to make things easier, I'm going to go ahead and write them right next to each other on another board so you can look at them so it doesn't become confusing. So just give me a second. Okay, so that's what they look like now. Okay, so let me look first and see, do we have any parallel lines? Okay, this is A, this is B, and this is C. So can you see that B and C have exactly the same slope? So B and C are parallel. Okay, you can see that. The next thing we need to look at is see which ones are perpendicular. So what is the negative reciprocal of 5? didn't we say that that would be negative 1/5? So A and B are perpendicular. This is the sign for perpendicular in math. I'm just holding that up. You see that? And then isn't also A and C perpendicular? Because again, they have perpendicular slopes. So just always be careful, check everything out. So you can see that B and C are parallel lines. They have the same slope. Then this slope and this slope are negative reciprocals, so they're perpendicular. Then this slope and this slope are negative reciprocals. So you've got two perpendicular lines and one parallel line. All right. Okay, so here they give us a, actually just let me erase this, put this up, and then we do the work and look at it. So the Arizona state flag is shown in a coordinate plane. Lines A and B, so make this A and B, so here's A and here's B. They look like they're going to be perpendicular. Are they? So remember, you cannot just look at it and judge. You have to mathematically prove if it is or isn't. So line A is 12y, I'm going to write this down, 12y equals negative 7x plus 42. That is line A. Line B is 11y equals 16x minus 52. So we're trying to prove that they're perpendicular. They look like they are, but the math will tell us if they are or if they're not. So I have to solve both of them for y. So let's start with the top one. I'm going to divide everything by 12. So y equals negative 7 over 12x plus 42 over 12. And we know that both of them are going to be divisible by 2. 2 goes into 42 and 12. So that is going to be 21 over 6. Actually, that still breaks down. We can still break that down by 3, right? So 3 goes into 21 7 times, so it reduces to 7/3. So not that we're too much worried about the y-intercept, but here is A. That's the slope. So if I want a perpendicular slope to that, then this is negative. The perpendicular slope has to be positive, and I need the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 7 over 12 is 12 over 7. So the next line, B, has to have a slope of 12 over 7. If it does, it's perpendicular. If it doesn't, I don't care what it looked like on there, it's not perpendicular. So let's go ahead and now take this and divide. So B is going to be y equals 16 over 11x minus 52 over 11, and we're looking at the slopes, so that's what we're comparing. Don't really care right now about the y-intercept, we're not trying to graph. So when I look at these two slopes, are they perpendicular? Well, no. No matter how they looked like in the diagram, they're not perpendicular. So that's how you tell. You put it in slope-intercept form, then you go ahead and you solve it. So the answer is no. So that's what you're going to be doing in homework, is checking and verifying yes or no. All right, last problem, example 4. Okay, so it says, write an equation of the line that passes through 4, negative 5, and is perpendicular to the line y equals 2x plus 3. This is similar to the first one we did, but instead of parallel, we want perpendicular. So let me write down all the information, then we're going to work it. So it goes through the point 4, negative 5. And it is perpendicular to y equals 2x plus 3. Those are the two important things that we need to know. Right. Oh, actually, we need this further out. There we go. So 4, negative 5, and y equals 2x plus 3. So I'm interested in the slope, right? So we said that perpendicular slopes are negative reciprocal. So if this is 2, then the negative reciprocal is going to be negative 1/2. Okay? So I'm going to plug into, just like we did before, I'm plugging into slope-intercept form right here, and we're going to see and find out what B is, and then we can write a line that's perpendicular to that. So if I drew that one and then drew the new line with the negative 1/2, they're going to form 90-degree angles, okay? So y is negative 5. Just be careful that you always plug in. That's why I oftentimes say label, you know, until you get better so you don't make a mistake. Then the slope is negative 1/2. Then x is 4 plus b. See how I wrote the x in the numerator? It's on top of the fraction, so be careful about that. So negative 5 equals, you're saying half of 4, but negative half of 4, so that's going to be negative 2 plus b. So it actually reduces nicely. Add 2, and b is negative 5 plus 2, or 2 minus 5, which is negative 3. So a slope perpendicular to this is y equals negative 1/2 x minus 3. And there you go, and that's what would be correct. So there you can see how to do parallel and how to do perpendicular slopes. Okay guys, it's just a matter of practicing.